Yes, good evening, everyone. Yes, please somebody ping me if I'm audible so that I can start the session. Good evening, Prince. Good evening, Rituparna. Good evening, Jayashri. Good evening, Nisha. Good evening, Uvasri. Good evening, Bharati. Okay, thank you, Nisha. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unacademy, India's largest online learning platform. Let's crack UPSC CSE English. Now, before I start with a very dynamic topic today, that is Revolt of 1857, let me introduce myself. My name is Alok Ojha. I've done my engineering from Pune. I have been associated with the field of UPSC since past 6 to 6.5 years. I have been through various stages of civil services exam. I also hold the experience of giving serious SSB twice. I also hold the experience of exams like CAPF Assistant Commandant and Uttar Pradesh PSC. I'm involved into the field of teaching since past 4 to 4.5 years, and I've mentored more than 10,000 students for the field of UPSC. Now, there might be question in the mind of an aspirant why one should prefer Unacademy as a platform for online learning. So here are the ample of reasons why one should prefer Unacademy as a platform for online learning. First of all, you will have daily live classes on the Unacademy platform. Unacademy offers you assimilation of top and dynamic educators of India on a single platform. You can directly interact with the educators. You can clear all sorts of doubts with the educators. Secondly, there would be live tests and quizzes on the Unacademy platform, which helps an aspirant to build up a competence or competitiveness. Now, why competence or competitiveness is important? Let us understand this. Every year, approximately around 8 to 9 lakh aspirants filled up the form for UPSC, out of which 3 to 4 lakh appear for the prelims exam, out of which 10 to 11,000 qualify the prelims exam, out of which 3 to 4,000 qualify the mains exam, and finally 800 to 1,000 make into the final list. So if I filter it down, how many filled up the form? It was approximately around 8 to 9 lakh. How many made it to the final list? Approximately around 800 to 1,000. So one aspirant is competing with 800 to 900 other aspirant. And an aspirant needs to understand that he is competing with a fellow aspirant on pan India basis at all India level. So he needs to develop that sort of competence. And competitiveness or competence can be what we say developed by going through live tests and quizzes, because one can easily analyze his preparation. Then, all the courses on an academy platform are highly structured in nature, and there is a proper timetable through which the courses are being conducted. And one can have unlimited access to the courses on an academy platform. These are the few top and dynamic educators of India from whom you are going to learn through. These are the courses being offered on the Unacademy platform. Subscribe to Unacademy and use my code AKOUS. I repeat the code AKOUS. Now, there is also something called as iconic subscription. Now, what is iconic subscription all about? Now, I'll give you a very simple example. Like there are many aspirants in the initial days of their preparation goes completely haphazard. Why it is haphazard? Because they do not have a proper orientation. They do not have a proper direction like what subjects to be studied, what is the aura or how much syllabus does UPSC covers, what is the present analytical trend of the UPSC exam. So in that case an aspirant starts studying whatever he feels like without any proper strategy and without any proper timetable. So basically iconic subscription is all about mentor. There would be a mentor who would be guiding you throughout your preparation for civil services. Like he would be telling you about answer writing practices, importance of answer writing, essay writing, which subject should be clubbed with which one, which optional should be chosen, how much time should be dedicated to an optional, how an answer writing needs to be practiced for an optional. That would be guided to you by a personal mentor of your choice. Okay, so, if you choose me as your mentor, I would be guiding throughout your journey of civil services preparation. Subscribe to Unacademy and use my code AKOUS. I repeat the code AKOUS. Okay, guys. Good evening, Sarfaraz. Good evening, Udayshri. Good evening, Raghupati. Good evening, Satya. Good evening, Aisha Siddiqui. Good evening, Shashank. Good evening, Shipra. Good evening, Ikra. Good evening, Vaishali. And hi to everyone. Yes, Uvasri, my health is quite better now. Okay. So let's get started with a very dynamic topic today. That is Revolt of 1857. Now, it's been almost around a month that we have started modern India. Rather than saying month, it's almost around 15 to 20 days that we have started modern India. Usually, if you follow the textbook, you will find Revolt of 1857 first, or Revolt of 1857 is covered earlier. Why I have covered all the background before 1857, you will understand in this lecture. Why it was necessary to cover commercialization of agriculture, why it was necessary to cover the peasant movements, why it was necessary to cover Renaissance and socio religious reform movements before the revolt of 1857, you will understand now. Okay, for the people who are new on the platform, I follow a very simple pattern throughout the course of history, and that pattern is SFC: story, fact, and concept. Okay, now let's get started with today's session: reasons for revolt of 1857. Now we'll go in a very step by step manner so that you can easily understand the things. First, I'll talk about economic causes for revolt of 1857. And let's understand each and every concept, each and every cause in a gradual way, in a very simplistic format. Now let's start with economic causes. Now, there was something called as commercialized agriculture that was introduced by Europeans in India. Now, there are two types of agriculture: subsistence agriculture and commercialized agriculture. Now, what is subsistence agriculture? Suppose I am a farmer and I practice subsistence agriculture. I produce only those crops which are useful for sustaining my livelihood and my family's livelihood. But in commercialized agriculture, I produce those crops which are high in demand in the national and the international market, because I will get a lot of money in the return. I will get a lot of cash in the return. This is called as commercialized agriculture or commercialization of agriculture. Now, when Europeans came in India, they started forcing our peasants to practice commercialized agriculture. Why? Because there were many commercial crops which were in high demand in the European markets, and Britishers wanted to establish monopoly over this market so that its profit margin will increase. So our peasants were forced to cultivate various commercial crops like cotton, sugarcane, indigo, opium, poppy, jute, tobacco, and so on. Now, basically, it is said that I'll give you a very small example for this. Suppose a peasant has cultivated a cotton. Now, before the harvest, it was decided that suppose I'm giving an example. A European planter has told our farmer that I am going to give you rupees 5 before the harvest of the crop. But when the crop is ready for the harvest, that European planter will say to our peasant that I'm just going to give you rupees 1. If you have to sell me, sell it, otherwise, forget about it. Our peasant was forced to sell that crop because that commercial crop is of no use to our peasant. It is of no use to our farmer. So he is forced to sell that commercial crop at a very low price to the Britishers. For example, he sold that cotton. Now, this cotton will go to Manchester and Liverpool. From there, it will go to London. And now, this raw material will be converted into a finished product, into a manufactured textile, and it will again come back to India. Where has the raw material come from? India. Where is it? Where it is sold, or where is the market for that? India. So basically, in a very systematic manner, India's money was drained out of India in a very methodological manner. And this flaw, for the first time, was highlighted by Dada Bhai Nauroji in his book Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. This is also referred as drain of wealth. So initially, our peasants thought that commercialization is a process, commercialization of agriculture, basically, which will improve are what we say fertility of the soil. It will improve mechanized agriculture, or it will lead our farmers towards mechanization process. But this did not happen. In fact, the fertility of the soil drastically reduced, and Britishers did nothing to what we say improve the condition of the Indian peasants. Like there were a lot many famines in India until and unless there was an hidden intention behind the Britishers' move. They did not bring any famine commissions in India. They only started bringing famine commissions when they felt that until and unless there is improvement in the quality of soil and agriculture, production cannot be improved. And there was high demand of the Indian crops in the European markets. Then they started bringing all sorts of famine commission. Then they started developing irrigation facilities in India. They started developing infrastructural facilities in India in the forms of dam. It was just because of the hidden intentions of the Britishers. Now, peasant section was also angry because of a very different system that was practiced by the Britishers. And that system was land revenue collection. There were three types of land revenue collection: zamindari system, which is also called as permanent settlement, rayatwari system, and mahalwari system. Now, what is zamindari system? Let us understand this. In zamindari system is also called as permanent settlement. Now, why it is called as permanent settlement? For example, I am a peasant. Okay. Now, the what we say taxes would be fixed permanently for the next 10 years, for next 1 decade. Suppose I am a peasant, I earn rupees 100. Now I have to pay 70 rupees as a tax. For the next year, I earn 100 rupees, I earn rupees 200. But still, I have to pay 70 rupees as the tax. For the third year, I earn only rupees 50. But still, I have to pay 70 rupees as the tax. Why? Because the revenue or the tax was fixed. This is called as zamindari or permanent settlement. What is important thing of zamindari system? English East India Company directly did not collect the rent from peasant or the farmer. It appointed zamindar. Now this zamindar collected the revenue from the farmer and gave the revenue to the English East India Company. Now 89% of the revenue went to the English East India Company and 11% was kept by zamindar himself. Now this system was very derogatory. Why? Because the way of collecting the revenue was very cruel. For example, if there is a failure of monsoon, and if a peasant or a farmer is unable to pay the rent or the tax, but still he had to pay the rent or the tax, and if he is unable to pay the rent, if he is unable to pay the tax, his property would be seized. His land would be seized basically. Such a cruel was a system of zamindari. There was one more flaw with the zamindari system. Try and understand this concept, very logical concept. Now, as I've told you, the taxation system was fixed. Okay, suppose I am a farmer. I have a 5 acres of land, and that land is not that fertile. Now, there is another farmer. He also has 5 acres of land. His land is quite productive and very fertile. I pay the same tax which is paid by that farmer whose land is quite productive and fertile. Now, isn't this a sort of injustice to me? Because I have to pay the same rent, I have to pay the same tax, although my land is infertile. This was one of the major flaws of zamindari system, and Britishers were highly unaware about the plight of the peasants. They hardly cared about the plight of the peasant. Secondly, there were certain section of zamindar whose zamindari rights were also evicted. Now let me give you an example. Suppose I am a zamindar of a particular region. Now Britishers have given me a responsibility to collect the revenue from the peasant. Now there is a failure of monsoon and there is a famine in that region. Now that farmer or the peasant is unable to pay the tax to me. And if he is unable to pay the tax to me, how will I pay the tax to the English East India Company? So what did Britishers do? They will evict my zamindari right. They will transfer my zamindari rights to someone else. So there were many zamindars also who became defaulters. There was another system called as basically rayatwari system. And what is rayatwari system basically? Rayatwari system, here Zamindar became money lenders. Now, how Zamindar became money lenders? Let us understand this. Under Rayatwari system, Britishers directly collected the revenue from the farmer. And now the revenue was completely based upon fertility of the soil. For example, there is a farmer whose land is quite fertile, the taxes would be high. There is another farmer whose land is quite barren, the taxes would be very low. And there is a farmer whose land is average, then the taxes would be average again. So here the taxation system was based completely on fertility of the soil, but still the taxes were quite high. Now, as I've told you previously, if the peasants were unable to pay the rent, what will happen? Their land would be taken by the Britishers. Getting the points clear? So, what did peasants do? Peasants go to the zamindar and take loans from them. So, zamindar now became money lenders. And these money lenders, these sahukar, charged surplus amount of interest on the loans given to the poor peasants and the farmers. So, in very simple words, our peasants were exploited by money lenders, zamindars, and the English East India Company. And he was completely overburdened with all sorts of debt. So, there was a sections of the peasant which had a sort of ventilation towards the Britishers. They had an anger towards the Britishers. There was one more thing in the economic causes. Britishers had completely ruined our Indian handicraft. Now, pay attention properly. For the people who are new on the platform and are attending my session for the first time, you will easily understand this concept. Now, as I've told you, like the British goods were initially quite like they were sold in the Indian market at very higher price. Okay, they were sold in the Indian markets at very higher price. Now, what did Indians do? We started using our own handicraft. Like our handicraft is known since the ancient time. I'll give you a few examples of this. Chicken work or chicken kurta of Lucknow, chappals of Kolhapur, Banarsi sari, Yavatmal sari, Chanderi sari, dhoti and dupatta of Ahmedabad, copper utensils of southern part of India. Sorry, copper and what we say bronze utensils of southern part of India and various regions of Maharashtra. All these are famous aspects or traditional handicrafts of India. Now people started using own goods, indigenous goods. But what did Britishers do? Britishers played a double game. Now they drastically reduced the prices of their own goods so that people will start preferring their goods instead of Indian handicraft. In this way, Indian handicraft was destroyed. Secondly, whatever handicraft were exported out of India, a high tariff was imposed on that. And since the tariff was very high, there were very little buyers for Indian handicraft. So, in a very systematic manner, Britishers had ruined our Indian handicraft and traditional village industry. So, these were the economic causes basically. So, yes, guys, please let me know, did you understand the economic causes? Yes, Saurabh, I'll be taking one class completely on the terminology of ancient and medieval India, for sure. Yes, guys, please let me know, did you understand the economic causes so that I can move further with political causes? Okay, now let's talk about the political causes. Now, basically, pay attention properly. There were three major presidencies at that time: Bombay, Madras, and Bengal presidency. And there was a separate governor for each presidency. Like there was a governor of Bombay, there was governor of Madras, there was governor of Bengal. But governor of Bombay and Madras were subordinated to governor of Bengal. And governor of Bengal was designated as governor general of Bengal. Whatever rules and regulations were framed by governor general of Bengal needs to be followed and implemented by governors of Bombay and Madras respectively. Now, with the passage of time, Governor General of Bengal came to be called as Governor General of India. Again, with the passage of time, Governor General of India became Viceroy of India. The first Governor General of Bengal was Warren Hastings. The first Governor General of India was William Bentinck. And the first Viceroy of India was Lord Canning. Now, these Governors Generals imposed all sorts of what we say different and new systems in India, which was quite derogatory to the Indian rulers. Now, what were these systems? One system was subsidiary alliance system, and subsidiary alliance system was introduced by Lord Wellesley. Now, what is a subsidiary alliance system? Let us understand this. Suppose I am an Indian ruler. Now, Britishers are forcing me to enter into an alliances with them. Okay? And I have to pay certain amount of money to them to enter into alliance with them, basically. And Britishers would be providing me security. And just in the name of security, Britishers were called as paramount power, and I will be called as a protected state. Why? Because my kingdom was protected by the Britishers. In very, very simple words, I have surrendered my sovereignty, I have surrendered my independence to the Britishers. This system is called as subsidiary alliance system. Now there are many terms and conditions as well involved in this. For example, suppose if I am a ruler who has entered into a subsidiary alliance system, I cannot make any friendship with any other European power without the permission of the Britishers. I cannot wage a war on any other kingdom or any other country without the permission of the Britishers. I cannot maintain an army beyond a stipulated limit. In my court, there would be a British resident. I would be paying his salary and I would be taking care of his expenses. So there were many such kingdoms who were brought under this system of subsidiary alliance. And the first one was Nizam of Hyderabad. Now, there was another very derogatory system called as doctrine of lapse. Now, this system was introduced by Lord Dalhousie. Now, it is said that what is doctrine of lapse? If any ruler, if he does not have a legal male heir, like it in Hindi it is called as waris. If he does not have any legal male heir, his property would or his kingdom would be taken up by the Britishers. Now it is said that the personal property of a ruler can go to the adopted son, but adopted son was not liable to become the new king of that kingdom because that property or that kingdom would be now a part of Britishers or would now be a part of English East India Company's possessions in India. Hundreds of kingdoms were annexed on the basis of doctrine of lapse. Jhansi, Awadh, Bhagat, Udaipur, Karauli, and so on. This was, in a very simple words, it was nothing but a pro-imperialistic approach of the Britishers. What is imperialism? Imperialism in Hindi means Samrajyavad, continuously expanding one's territory. So directly or indirectly, Britishers were expanding their territory through various acts they were bringing in. Now it is said that, as I've told you, in doctrine of lapse, there is one term and condition that if any ruler, if he does not have a legal male heir, then the property would be taken by the Britishers. But there was one kingdom, Awadh. It was just captured on the pretext of maladministration. Britishers said that you are unable to carry out your administration properly, and now we are going to carry out your administration. That is why we are conquering the kingdom of Awadh. Now, it is said that Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal ruler or the last Mughal emperor, his name was removed from the coins and Britishers inscribed their own names. The governor generals inscribed their own names on the coin. Then it is said that Lord Dalhousie asked Bahadur Shah Zafar to vacate the Red Fort and shift to Mehrauli, which is just outside Delhi. Presently, it is a part of Delhi itself. Then came Lord Canning, and he said that the successors of the Mughal emperor would not be called as kings or the emperor. They would just be called as prince. But later on, it is also said that they were not even called as prince. Now, can you believe that these Britishers came just for the purpose of trading in India and now were dictating terms and conditions to the Indian rulers? If you remember one thing I've told you when I was talking about arrival of Europeans in India, I've told you Captain William Hawkins came for the first time. He was followed by Captain Middleton. At that time, the rulers were completely aware about the situation at that time. They anticipated that these people in coming days are going to impose terms and conditions on us. The Mughal rulers, who had such a beautiful pomp, they were living such a luxurious life, were now living on petty pensions which were given to them by the Britishers. Such was the condition of the Mughals or the emperors or the Nawabs or the Rajas in India. So there was another section, that is the ruler section, which also had a feeling of what we say hatred towards the British rule. Not all the Rajas, not all the Nawabs, but few section, they had a feeling of hatred towards the Britishers. Okay? Yes, guys, please let me know, did you understand the political causes? Satya, effective control is similar to subsidiary alliance because directly or indirectly, the internal administration was being controlled by the Britishers. Hope so the points are clear, Satya. Yes, Juhi, they completely changed. Like just from the revenue collectors, they became rulers now. Yes, guys, please let me know. Did you understand the concept? Okay, now let us understand grievances of sepoys and other members. Now, there was a sort of a discrimination which can be specified as racial discrimination, and racial discrimination was rampant at that time. What is racial discrimination? Discriminating on the basis of color of the skin. That is referred as racial discrimination. Now, it is said that, for example, I'll give you a small example. Suppose I am a sepoy working for the British Indian Army. Although I have served loyally for 20 years, but still my post or designation would remain the same. There was discrimination in the basis of payment and promotion. Secondly, there was mistreatment of sepoys by the British officials. Like there was a cafe, I'll give you a small example. During the tenure of Britishers, there was a cafe in Dharamshala, Himachal Pradesh. And in that cafe, it was written, Indians and dogs are not allowed. Such was the condition of we people on our own land, on our own soil. And secondly, Britishers also refused to give double batta, foreign service alliances, to our own, what we say, soldiers. And what is double batta? I'll give you a small example. Suppose I am a sepoy recruited into the Bengal army. Now I will be serving in the Bengal army. But if I am asked to serve, basically, suppose I am recruited into the Bengal army and if I am asked to serve somewhere in European country. So it is the responsibility of the Britishers to pay me extra allowances. Isn't that so? Now, Britishers denied paying extra allowances or foreign services allowances to our soldiers. So this system is called as double batta. So our soldiers has a sort of anger. Our sepoys had an anger towards the Britishers. They were completely debarred from the higher post. Okay, like if you see that all the higher posts were hijacked by the Britishers themselves, be it a district collector, be it a superintendent of the police, be it the head of the defense department. So all the like what we say, every higher post was hijacked by the Britishers, and both the judiciary as well as the police system was completely biased towards the Britishers. So there was like they had a sort of ventilation against the Britishers. Okay. Yes, guys, are the points clear? Please let me know so that I can move further with the religious causes. Yes, guys, please let me know so that I can move further with the religious causes. Okay, thank you. Now, let me go into a small background. Britishers had passed one act that is called as Charter Act of 1813. And there was one clause of Charter Act 1813 that Christian missionaries were allowed to come in India and preach Christianity. I have used the word preach Christianity. I haven't used the word forceful conversion into Christianity. But initially, they started preaching Christianity. But with the passage of time, they started imposing Christianity on Indians. They started forceful conversion into Christianity. Now, it is said that there were various practices which were followed by the Britishers through which our Indians felt that in some or the other way they were getting Christianized. I'll give you a very small example. A Vellore mutiny in 1806, which occurred during the tenure of Sir George Barlow, exemplified this. For example, during the Vellore mutiny, there was commander in chief whose name was Lord Hodown and John Cradock. They both passed a very foolish order that Hindus cannot apply tilak on the forehead. Hindus cannot wear a sacred thread. Muslims completely need to shave their chin and mustache. They cannot wear the holy cap and instead they introduce another turban. So this was felt by Hindus and Muslims as interference in their traditional religious practices and beliefs. And they felt that they were forcefully getting Christianized. Now there was one more thing during basically First Anglo-Burma War. Now during First Anglo-Burma War, an army was dispatched from land route as well as from the sea route. Now when the army was dispatched from the sea route, now it was felt by the Hindus that, like in Hindu at that time, it was a practice that if any person is crossing the sea, he will lose his caste. And this was called as Kala Pani as per Hinduism. At that time, it was a sort of a practice. Although superstitious, but still it was practiced. Now, lot many Hindus in the army were dispatched to suppress the revolt in the region of Bengal. That is the first Anglo-Burma War. Now, many Hindus gathered under the leadership of Binda and resulted in the form of a mutiny which is called as Barakpur Mutiny of 1824. Now, again, the Hindus felt that they were getting Christianized because time and again, Britishers were trying to interfere with the religious practices of both Hindus and the Muslims. Okay. Now, Britishers also passed very derogatory acts. Like few acts were, one of the act was General Service Enlistment Act. Now, what is General Service Enlistment Act? If any person is recruited into a particular section of the army, he can be asked to serve anywhere where the Britishers wish to. Okay, like I had given you an example. Suppose I have been recruited into the British Indian Army in the Barakpur region, that is in the region of Bengal. But I can be I can be asked to serve in the France. I can be asked to serve in any of the European countries where Britishers are involved. So as I've told you, for an Hindu, basically crossing the sea means losing a caste. So, this act was again derogatory to the practices of Hindus. Secondly, Religious Disabilities Act was passed. And what was this act? If any person who wills or who aspires to get his ancestral property, first of all, he needs to get converted into Christianity. Otherwise, his ancestral property would be seized and it would become the part of the British Empire. So basically, all these derogatory things were imposed upon the Indians. Like government also decided to tax the mosque and the temple. Getting the points clear? And the money that would be collected, that would be used for sponsoring the people for forceful conversion into Christianity. So these were the religious causes which sparked up the revolt of 1857. Yes, guys, did you understand this? Please let me know. Yes, Sarfaraz. We'll see about Mangal Pandey as well. Yes, guys, please let me know that you understand this so that I can move further. Okay. Now, there are certain administrative causes as well. Now, let us understand this. Now, there was rampant corruption in the English East India Company. Now, how we can understand that there was a corruption in the English East India Company? Let us understand this. I'll go into the small background. Now, Britishers initially has passed an act called as Regulating Act 1773. Now, what was the purpose of Regulating Act 1773? The purpose of Regulating Act 1773 was to regulate or control the affairs of English East India Company in India. Again, basically, there was another act which was called as Pitt's India Act 1784. And the major purpose now in the Pitt's India Act 1784, basically it is said that over company board of control was appointed so that board of control can have a close watch over the administrative affairs of the English East India Company, because at that time corruption was quite rampant in the English East India Company. That is why board of control was established, to look into the issue of corruption, to look over or to have a watch over the activities or administrative activities of the English East India Company's servants. So this simply exemplifies that corruption was rampant in each and every administrative department of the English East India Company. Then there was another section which was quite discontented by the policies of the Britishers, and that section was the tribal section. Now it is said that for tribal, their jungles are everything for them. They refer this as sacred groves. Like tribals follows one practice that is called as Sarainism. What is Sarainism? They feel their forest or they believe that their jungles or their forest are their god, are their deities, and they refer them as sacred groves. British, just for fulfilling their monetary, what we say, aspirations, or basically for exploiting the what we say mines or for exploiting the minerals of this region, they started clearing the forest without caring for the sentiments of the tribals. So there were certain tribal section which were very angry with the Britishers. Now, I'll give you a very small example. Like Mundas. Mundas are the tribe of Chota Nagpur Plateau. Now, Mundas believe themselves as Khunt Katidar. What is Khunt Katidar? Original clearer of forest. That is, as per Mundas, this forest belongs to us and we have the rights over the produce of the forest. We have the rights over the entire forest. That is the belief of the Mundas. And Britishers destroyed this practice basically. That is why they had a ventilation of anger against the Britishers. Then there are certain tribes who were angry with the various policies of the Britishers. Like, for example, there is another tribe in Chota Nagpur Plateau which is called as Kand tribe or Kond tribe. It is also locally called as Kui tribe. Kand basically means people of the hilly areas. So it is said that they practiced one system called as Maria system. Maria system is a traditional human sacrifice system practiced by Kand tribe or Kui tribe. Now Lord Hardinge at that time, so although human sacrifice is wrong, it is against the principles of human laws basically. But still, it was felt by the tribals as interference in their traditional practices. Then, Widow Remarriage Act was introduced in 1856 by Lord Dalhousie, and Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar played a very exemplary role in that. But still, Indians felt that it was interference in their what we say traditional practices. Like Sati was banned on 4th December 1829 in the region of Bengal by William Bentinck. And Raja Ram Mohan Roy played a very exemplary role in this. But still, few sections of the Indians believed that it was interference in their own traditional practices. So, these were the major administrative causes. Then comes basic foreignness of the Britishers. Now, what is basic foreignness of the Britishers? Like, initially, we'll go back to the ancient India. Like when Aryans came into India, okay? Now, although Aryans came from Central Asia, as per Max Muller, who gave a very wonderful theory, that is Aryan invasion theory or Central Asian invasion theory. So, Aryans came from Central Asia, but they did not plunder India. They made India their home. They settled in India. They made all sorts of developments in India. Then came Mughals. Initially, few of the initially before the Mughals, there were many Turkish warriors who came to India just to plunder India because they were attracted towards the wealth of India. But when Mughal came in India, basically they settled in India. They made India their home. When Portuguese came in India initially, as I have told you, one of the Portuguese viceroy was Albuquerque, and he is also referred as cultural ambassador between Portugal and India. Why? Because he asked the Portuguese soldiers to settle in India, to establish permanent colonies in India because they felt India as their home. But this was not the case with the Britishers. Their only intention was to plunder India. Their only intention was to exploit the resources and the people of India in the name of colonialism, because they always followed the practice of pro imperialism, that is, Samrajyavad, continuously expanding their kingdom. And secondly, there was a sort of racial superiority among the Britishers. There was a sort of racial discrimination against the Indians. They discriminated against the Indians on the basis of color of the skin. They never felt India as their home. So, guys, did you understand this? Yes, please let me know. Yes, please let me know so that I can move with the next topic. Yes, guys. Okay. Now, let us understand few more things so that we can easily understand how these things sort of hatred against the Britishers. Now, there was something called as First Anglo-Afghan War. Now, what is First Anglo-Afghan War all about? We have already discussed about this. Now, First Anglo-Afghan War occurred during the tenure of Lord Auckland. If you remember, guys, we have discussed these things in the chapter of Governor General. Now, what happened basically in the region of Afghanistan, there was an empire called as Durrani Empire. It was founded by Ahmad Shah Abdali. But there was another contender to the throne whose name was Dost Muhammad. Okay. Now, Dost Muhammad overthrew this person and captured the Durrani Empire. Now, he had a vision of capturing certain regions of Kashmir and Peshawar. But the region of Kashmir and Peshawar were under the Sikh ruler Maharaja Ranjit Singh. And Maharaja Ranjit Singh was a very good friend of English East India Company. Now, basically, he knew that, Dost Muhammad knew that until and unless we are going to get a help of English East India Company, we cannot overthrow Maharaja Ranjit Singh. But as I have told you, Maharaja Ranjit Singh was a very good friend of English East India Company. So what happened here now? Dost Muhammad approached Lord Auckland and told him that help us against Sikh. But Lord Auckland denied this. Now, what did Lord Auckland, what we say, felt that now we are going to find a puppet ruler in the region of Afghanistan, and indirectly we are going to rule over the region of Afghanistan. So, a puppet was found in the region of Afghanistan whose name was Shuja Shah. I repeat, whose name was Shuja Shah. And now, Shuja Shah was placed on the throne of Durrani Empire, and there was a battle fought between Lord Auckland and the second person was Dost Muhammad. Now, in this battle, basically, Dost Muhammad was captured, he was imprisoned, and he was taken to imprisonment in Calcutta. Now, when he was imprisoned, there was an outbreak of civil revolt. There was an outbreak of civil war in the region of Afghanistan. Getting the points clear? Now, what is what I mean to say by this First Anglo-Afghan War is like there was no need of interfering in the politics of Afghanistan, but Britishers did interfere there. Why? The reason behind that was Britishers wanted to settle their personal scores just to what we say so that they can keep an eye on Russia that was again following the policy of imperialism, that was again expanding its territories. Getting the points clear? So this exemplifies pro-imperialistic approach of the Britishers. that they are colonizing more and more places. Punjab War. Now Sikh War, we have seen Anglo-Sikh War. Okay. Like initially there was a Treaty of Amritsar signed between Maharaja Ranjit Singh and English East India Company. Now as per this treaty, northern part of the river Satluj belongs to Maharaja Ranjit Singh and southern part of river Satluj belongs to English East India Company. But with the passage of time, there was another treaty signed called as Lahore Treaty. Now, what is Lahore Treaty all about? Basically, Singh's troops started moving towards south of river Satluj. But south of river Satluj was the territories of the Britishers. Getting the points clear? These were the territories of the Britishers. So what happened in that case? Basically, Britishers captured all the region towards the south of river Satluj as well as certain territories of the north of river Satluj. And finally, there was again what we say few years later, there was again a treaty in which the entire Sikh empire was captured. This simply exemplifies again the pro-imperialistic approach. Crimean Wars in Russia, it inspired the people in India. We are going to talk about this Crimean War in detail when we'll be talking about world history. Then comes Santhal rebellion. Santhals are against the tribes, basically, and I've talked about the plight of the tribals. Okay, so we felt that when everywhere people can fight for their rights, why can't we fight for our own rights? And at that time, there was disproportionate ratio of the sepoys to the European soldiers. Like for every 6 Indian sepoy, there was one European officer. So basically taking the advantage of this, sorry, by we can easily take the advantage of this situation and revolt against the Britishers because this is our own motherland and it is we who can rule over this land and nobody else. So, did you understand the influence of outside events? Yes, Saili. Treaty of Amritsar. Yes, Satya. Maharaja Dulip Singh. That is Lahore Treaty. Yes, Sarfraz. In this navigation treaty during the time of William Bentinck. All these aspects, guys, like for the students who are attending my session for the first time, all these aspects have been covered in the previous sessions. So please go through the previous sessions as well. Okay. Shall I move further, guys? Did you understand this? Okay. Thank you. Now, cause of Nana Sahib. Now, let us understand this. Now, Nana Sahib was an adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao II. Okay. Now, it is said that Bajirao II, after the third Anglo-Maratha war, he had to move to Bithur, and now he was receiving an annual pension of rupees 8 lakh. Okay. Now he was living on the pension that was given to that was given to Bajirao II. Now it is said that after the death of Bajirao II, the pension should be given to his adopted son, whose name is Nana Sahib. Now Britishers came up with a new policy that I have told you initially. That is doctrine of lapse. And one of the principles of doctrine of lapse says that an adopted son can only get the personal property, but he cannot get the kingdom of that ruler. So it is said that the kingdom was taken over by the Britishers, and now Britishers also refuse to pay the pension to the adopted son of Bajirao II, that is Nana Sahib. Now Nana Sahib asked his friend Azimullah Khan to go to the London and meet the crown and discuss the issue with the crown. But the crown did not pay any heed. It did not pay any attention to the plight of Nana Sahib. So this was one of the major cause through which Nana Sahib had an anger against the Britishers, and he played a very exemplary role in the revolt of 1857. Okay, and what was the immediate cause? Let us understand this. First thing, now it is said that Britishers mixed certain amount of bone dust in the atta, in the flour basically, to improve the strength of the army. And they introduced a new rifle which is called as Royal Enfield rifle. Now that Royal Enfield rifle had a cartridge, and this cartridge had to be bitten off with the teeth before basically firing it. But the cartridge was made out of a fat, and that fat was of cow and a pig. Cow was sacred to Hindus and pig was taboo or haram for the Muslims. So basically, again, it was felt by the Indian soldiers as an interference in their personal religious practices. So these are the causes of revolt of 1857, guys. Did you understand this? Please let me know. Yes, guys, please let me know. This is course of revolt, not the causes of revolt. Please make a correction. It is course of the revolt. Okay. Now pay attention properly over the course of the revolt. Now listen to me properly in the form of a story. In a very, very chronological manner, we are going to understand how the movement spread to the other parts of the nation. Now, Britishers had introduced a new rifle called as Royal Enfield rifle, and that rifle had a cartridge which was made out of a coating of the fat of a pig and a cow. Cow was sacred to Hindus and pig was haram or a taboo to the Muslim. Now it is said that this news spread like a wildfire. On 9th March 1857, sepoys of the 19th Bengal Infantry at Behrampur in Punjab refused to accept these greased cartridges. On 9th March 1857, at Behrampur, 19th Bengal Infantry sepoys refused to accept these greased cartridges because they felt that it was interference in their personal religious practices. Now, entire unit was disbanded. Entire unit was court-martialed because they refused the orders of their seniors. And this news went to Meerut, where the rifle was introduced. And on 23rd March 1857, a decision was taken by the commander-in-chief of the army, whose name was General Greg Anson. Now, what did General Greg Anson said? That until and unless a proper report comes on this rifle, temporarily we are going to ban the use of this rifle. Getting the points clear? On 9th March, entire unit refused to accept this rifle. On 23rd March, it was decided that until and unless a proper, what we say, report about the rifle comes, temporarily we are going to ban this rifle. But this news spread again like a wildfire. On 29th March 1857, I repeat, on 29th March 1857, a soldier of 34th Bengal Infantry at Barakpur went on a rampage and massacred many European officers and soldiers. And that soldier was named as Mangal Pandey. Now, Mangal Pandey was also supported by another person whose name was Isrul Pandey in his move. And for this, basically, Mangal Pandey was hanged to death on 8th April 1857. And Mangal Pandey became the first martyr of Mother India. Isrul Pandey was again hanged on 11th April 1857 for helping out Mangal Pandey, who was carrying out rampage against a British officer. And Isrul Pandey was hanged on 11th April 1857, and he is also referred as second martyr of Mother India. Now there was another person whose name was Paltu Khan. Now this person, he had informed the Britishers about the rampage that was carried out by the Britishers against the rampage that was carried out by Mangal Pandey against the European officers. And Paltu Khan was promoted for maintaining loyalty with the Britishers. Now, when Mangal Pandey was hanged, the news of his hanging spread like a wildfire. There was anger among the entire section or the entire fraternity of the Indian soldiers. And on 10th May 1857, 85 sepoys of 11th and 20th Bengal Infantry moved towards the region of Delhi and declared Bahadur Shah Zafar as the ruler of India and not the English East India Company or the Britishers. Getting the points clear? Now, they gave a slogan, Dilli Chalo. I have used the word Dilli Chalo, not Chalo Dilli. Chalo Dilli was used by Subhash Chandra Bose. That we'll study later on. So they gave the slogan Dilli Chalo. Now, from wherever they were going, they were joined by the local people. They were joined by the local army. They were joined by the locals and they were joined by the other, what we say, small flintered army units. Now, when they reached Delhi, there was a person named as Colonel Ripley. He was ready with his army to, what we say, tackle these people or to tackle the coming soldiers. But Colonel Ripley was killed. Now, there was another person who was sent, Simon Fraser. Now, Simon Fraser had brought his own, what we say, unit of the army. But when the unit of the army reached, that unit got merged with the mutineers and killed Simon Fraser itself. Then at Delhi, another person, Lieutenant Willick Boy, he was unable to overcome the resistance. And finally, it is said that Mirza Zahiruddin, because now, by now, Bahadur Shah Zafar, like he was quite old and he cannot carry out the leadership of the revolt. So his son, Mirza Zahiruddin, he was chosen as the leader of the revolt. Although he did not had any sorts of military skill, leader of the revolt. And finally, since he did not had the leadership skill, the leadership was given to General Bhakt Khan, that is commander-in-chief of the army of Bahadur Shah Zafar. So, are you understanding the course? Getting the points clear? I'll repeat the points again. First, the entire 19th Bengal Infantry refused to accept the greased cartridges in Behrampur, that is Punjab. 23rd March, Greg Anson, he gave a decision that until a report comes, temporarily it would be stopped. Then, on 29th March, Mangal Pandey started a rampage against the European officers. Mangal Pandey became the first martyr of Mother India on 8th April 1857. He was supported by Isrul Pandey. He became the second martyr of Mother India on 11th April 1857. Then comes the 85 sepoys. They moved to the region of Delhi and they gave the slogan Dilli Chalo. Getting the points clear? They gave the slogan Dilli Chalo and they were supported by the local, what we say, people. They were supported by the local army units and Simon Fraser, Lieutenant Willick Boy, and all these European officers were massacred and killed. Now it is said that now Lord Canning at that time he immediately telegraphed General Elphiston, and General Elphiston was the governor of Bombay Presidency at that time, and asked him immediately to send the forces. When the forces came to Delhi, all the forces were killed. He immediately, what we say, telegraphed to what we say Lord Elgin in Singapore to send additional forces. But when the forces arrived, again they were killed. Now Europeans were under a huge tension, and now they believed that their families was highly unsafe. Now pay an attention. This incident has been mentioned in very few texts. Please pay attention properly. Now European families were in an immense tension. Now how to protect basically their families. Now mistakenly they felt that we will station our families in the fort at Kanpur. Okay, so 200 European families were stationed in the fort of Kanpur, and they believed that their families would remain safe in the fort of Kanpur. And the European families was moved to the fort of Kanpur. This news spread like a wildfire, and Nana Sahib came to know about this. You remember Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Bajirao too? Now Britishers had denied him giving the pension, and Nana Sahib came to know about this, that all the European families have been stationed in the fort of Kanpur. Now Nana Sahib along with his 3000 followers reached the fort of Kanpur, and now he entered into the Kanpur fort and had negotiations with the Britishers. Britishers negotiated one thing, that please give us a safe passage to our families and after that we are going to negotiate the terms. We are going to talk with the crown about the situation that is going on in India. Initially, Nana Sahib accepted this. But when European families started moving out, all the what we say mutineers, all the followers of Nana Sahib started attacking what we say like European families. Getting the points clear? They started attacking all, like they attacked women, they attacked children, they attacked old age people, and so on. More than 200 women and children were killed in this event, and this is called as Sati Chora Ghat massacre or Bibigar massacre in the history of revolt of 1857. It is also called as Siege of Kanpur. And after this incident, Britishers followed a very cruel and ruthless policy of the suppression of the revolt, because by now the revolt had majorly covered the northern part of India. Jhansi, Allahabad, uh, Jhansi, Allahabad, Bareilly, Banaras, Bihar, and so on. So, hope so, guys. Did you understand the course of the revolt? Yes, Ramesh, I'll take care of it. Yes, Saurabh. Elphiston College was named after General Elphiston. Yes, guys, please let me know. Did you understand the concept? Did you understand the course of the revolt? How the revolt spread? Okay, guys. The PDF would be uploaded soon, immediately on the my Telegram channel. I would be uploading it immediately on my Telegram channel. One more reminder: 14th August, that is day after tomorrow. Okay, there would be a small test. I have already informed you. There would be a quiz on the topic of press, Charter Act, and Renaissance and socio-religious reform movements. Please prepare well for the test. The test would be on the Unacademy platform at 6:30 p.m. Okay? Yes, guys. If you like my lecture, please subscribe to Unacademy and use my code AKOUS. I repeat the code AKO. Okay, thank you guys and have a very nice day.